Hello and welcome to Full Contact Fun Addicts. I'm John Della and batting for the out of work Aaron Murrow is John Arredondo, our longtime friend and pinch hitter.
That's right. I can pinch him with the best of them. And
today we're gonna, we've been off the air for we missed last week due to some technical difficulties. We're going to talk a little bit about the last UFC and the outcomes thereof, but more importantly, we're going to lead with our good friend Conor McGregor and his hijinks, and his love for dollies. John, you saw the video.
Yeah.
Give me your take on it, and I'll tell you what I think.
Okay, so the video leads you to believe a lot of things, but I was told that Lobov was actually the instigator in this, and that he and his crew cornered Conor's guy. Is that right, Robert?
Lobov is Conor's guy.
Okay, so who cornered Lobov then?
Khabib.
Oh, Khabib did. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Grabbed him by the back of the neck.
Pointed him, stuck his finger in his face, and said something to him.
And then slapped him in the
So
back
there was
of the
the instigation. So then they see the bus. What is it? A day later? That's what we see. We all see a bus pulling up, and we see Conor running around the bus, grabs a chair, and hooks it through a window.
I think it was Monday that it happened.
Okay.
And then I think it was the weigh-in, so Friday, probably a couple days.
So it was brewing for a while. They owed them a little something. They see the bus, and then they attack the bus.
So so Lobov is Conor McGregor's compatriot, right?
Yeah.
Conor McGregor catches wind of this, that Khabib Nurmagomedov probably says something to the effect, stop talking shit. Tell Conor to come here and I'll whoop him. Something to that effect. Something that I would say to someone who was talking smack behind my back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The story is Artem Lobov is also Russian.
Okay.
Or of
Russian descent.
Yeah. He went on another media outlet and was talking crap about Khabib.
Okay. So
he told Khabib. Khabib told him, "Stop talking about me. Don't talk about my name ever again." Stuff like that.
So he got in his face, like most men of his ilk would. By his ilk, I mean fighter types. And so Conor McGregor took exception to this. Got his boys together, or chartered a jet, I suppose, right? And
I would imagine.
And flew 24 hours from Ireland to what was it, Las Vegas?
Yeah.
And apparently,
Aer
yesterday I
Lingus.
heard that charting a flight like that is a $30,000 fee per person.
Sure.
Jet
fuel's not cheap.
And how many people did he take? 20?
They say 20. I don't know about 20.
Okay, so he took his. Basically, what he did was he became Ric Flair, and he took the Four Horsemen, on a jet ride to go confront Khabib Nurmagomedov, and basically, what did they arrive right as they were on the bus, or did they wait till after the press conference over? What would possess him to attack the bus rather than wait for him to get off or wait for him to get on?
It was coordinated a little bit.
You think
slightly,
so?
Because they couldn't get in the building. They have.
Why couldn't they get in the building?
No credentials, to get everybody in. They weren't gonna. Security won't let them in. So what had happened was Conor McGregor owns a media company that does this thing called Mac Life, which follows around and does all this,
His reality show.
Yeah, reality show. And apparently those two guys from Mac Life coordinated it, so they got in, did the weigh-ins and all that stuff, and said, "Hey, Conor, we're done. They're about to leave. Meet us at this entrance." Boom, let them all in.
So Mac Life helped facilitate this unsightly, horrible thing that happened to the UFC that got several million more eyeballs on a card that was
Dwindling.
on life support.
Yeah.
And okay, let's talk about the incident itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
First, that part, because I have my theories about that as well.
Okay.
I mean, what goes along with that? So, yeah. So by chance, the bus is pulling in because they can't go out or they can't go into the place, but the bus is pulling in, right, Robert?
No, they get inside.
They did get inside.
They got inside. They got inside the building.
By they, you mean Conor's entourage.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mac Life is in the building. Bus is pulling in?
No, everybody was getting on the bus to leave the facility.
From the
Oh, I
Brooklyn.
see. I see.
the weigh-in, right?
On the way, they
From
went
the
back to their hotels. Okay. So they had two buses. One was the red corner, one was the blue corner. So apparently
That was going to happen.
Yeah, they opened it. Conor McGregor got down to the bus area where they're taking off to leave, and that's when it started.
Go ahead. So he's pounding on them to either tell Khabib to come out or let him in. and he's beating on the sides and the windows. And if I'm not mistaken, if I saw the video, I only saw the video once.
Yeah.
The guys surround the bus. Is right. His guys surround the bus
For the most part.
and they keep pushing him away till he goes and he grabs a dolly, picks it up and throws it to through the driver's side, one of the front driver's side windows, shattering the window itself, showering everybody in glass, and actually injured one or more of the four of the fighters.
Michael Chiesa got it bad. He had to actually drop out of the fight due to it.
Two fighters, Ray Borg and Chiesa, both got.
But Chiesa got glass damage in his face.
Ray Borg had glass in his eyes.
Yeah, that's no good.
Oh.
So
I'd rather have it in my cheeks than blind
yeah,
me.
so Borg got cut because of that off the fight. Chiesa had glass sticking
Lacerations.
out of his side of forehead.
Yeah. And you
Apparently,
can't fight like that because they're going to open up.
Reed Harris from WEC back in the day, who
Yeah.
also now UFC.
The old-
Reed Harris had sustained some injuries, and one of his guys, like his workers or people he worked with.
Well, is it a case of having $100 million and doing whatever the hell you want? Or is it trying to draw more eyes to the show? There's so many different ways of looking at this.
Yeah. Someone's pulling the strings. Now, it's hard to know who it is. I mean, do you want to say, oh, you know what, these are just rich thugs being thugs? Or is it, I don't know. But I think that what happened, the underlying effect is that more people watched this UFC than would have once they heard Tony Ferguson was gone.
He got huge, yeah.
Yeah, and the card seemingly started to fall apart. Now, despite the fact that Rose Namajunas was fighting
Joanna
Jedrzejczyk. That wasn't enough of a drawing card, I think, maybe. And I think they had – I would bet you dollars to donuts that someone underwrote that flight from Belfast, probably, or wherever in Ireland, to the press conference, to where the buses were.
Yeah. You might be right about that. That's an interesting theory. I don't know. It seems calculated. It seems like a really dumb act. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, Conor McGregor's still getting all kind of press, still blowing up his name. He would have been almost out of the press for God knows what it's been, 6 months now?
Well, when he fought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing really going on since Mayweather.
Yeah, and, they're talking about putting that ridiculous boxing in a cage with small gloves thing together for him. And I'm like, you didn't box in the ring with small gloves. You didn't go barefoot for him. Why are you making all these considerations for him? I don't get it. Why? So that you can get him in and then everyone could know what was going to happen again?
Yeah. Well, if you're trying to legitimize a sport, why don't you stop making a circus out of it?
Legitimize the sport. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
By putting boxers in it? Because that's a real legit sport.
It just seemed like that was the ultimate goal, but apparently not.
Yeah. I think that, I don't know. What's your take? What do you think about Conor's actions? If you could have in one or more sentences, what would you say if someone said, "Did you see Conor McGregor? What do you think of his actions?"
Okay, so if I just saw the video and just had to say, "Hey, what the hell's going on?" I just think it's a little absurd to injure fighters on the way to or outside of the weigh-ins. It's just in a way that had nothing to do with promoting the fight. This is if it's all personal, I think it's wrong, and they slapped him on the wrist.
Well, you know what? To be fair, slapping him on the wrist. I mean, I know I hope those fighters that got injured and lost money. I hope they take it upon themselves, to go after Conor in a civil suit, if anything. I mean,
Sure.
Because I'll be honest with you, I've thrown things through moving car windows before myself. I picked up ashtrays and shoved it through. I don't know if I hurt anybody on the inside, but I know I broke the window a couple times. So I know where he's coming from, being that angry and people just not engaging you to where you're a fighter, I'm a fighter, you called me out, now come on out and fight, right? So you're just so frustrated and so angry and so fired up, and he had, a whole day to sit on that and plane and brood about it, that you just want to get at him, and that's what happens. On the other hand, Khabib was supposed to fight the next night. He absolutely had every reason not to get off that bus
Sure.
and fight Conor. Well, yeah, so, you have, I don't know how much he made off that fight. Probably a couple $100,000, right?
Boo.
Khabib Nurmagomedov?
Oh, I bet
Nurmagomedov?
more than I think he probably had $1 million.
All right, so that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to throw away on a street fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no getting out of the bus.
I don't know what the contract it was, but I heard Al Iaquinta made $1 million.
Well, Al Iaquinta earned it because he took that fight on a day's notice. Now, granted, he was already in fight shape, and he's an excellent. He's just really at the height of his game right now, and he put up a good showing. So yeah, that Ally Quinta, good for him.
Yeah.
But Khabib was right not to get off the bus and fight him unless he absolutely wanted to get off the bus and fight him. Then he should have got off the bus and fought him. You're a fighter first, you're a jock second. That's always how. Of course, that's why I'm not rich, and they are.
Have you guys heard any of the interviews with Khabib after?
No, I haven't. What did he say?
It's hilarious. He goes, why? I not get off bus? Did not let me off bus. You want fight? Just give call like real gangster. You tell me place, tell me time. I be there.
Yes.
Just tell me by myself. I don't care.
Somehow I don't think that would be just, I'd be there, just me and you. No, I have a feeling that there'd be a lot more than chairs going through windows if they met in a random place.
Okay, so here's a question I have for you guys. Have you guys? I don't know how to say this correctly, but do you know what the oligarch is?
Oligarch.
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 Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Define it.
So I don't. That's what I'm asking. So apparently there's some really rich people, right?
Yeah.
In the billions or something.
Oligarch. Yeah.
And apparently Khabib's.
Don Corleone would be considered an oligarch.
Okay, so gangster pretty much.
Well, not necessarily. The Trump family.
Okay. So apparently, from my understanding, he said some stuff to like beg. What's that Russian guy's name? Putin?
Vladimir?
Yeah, he asked Vladimir to let his brother go and to help him because somehow he's in trouble. And I guess this billionaire actually funds Khabib, and that's why Khabib never needs money because his place, the Eagle like MMA, whatever it is owned by that same guy who's like $1.4 billion.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's like when he says he's not afraid and people with guns and stuff are like around him all the time, it's kind of true story.
If you're not afraid, why do you have people around you with guns all the time?
I have no clue.
Yeah, well, when you come from a place where
That's more myth, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
There's
know
a lot of
anything
myth
about
behind
that.
all
And I
that
won't
stuff.
speak to that because I don't know who's legit and who's straight up and how much of this gangster persona is more Hollywood generated and more mystique oriented and how much of it is legit. I personally not care to find out. But that said, did Conor improve his chances of fighting this Khabib?
Well, it's interesting that John brings that up because that's the next thing is that who was he going to fight in the UFC if there ever was a comeback?
Conor doesn't have to earn any. I mean, honestly,
Right.
Conor's.
But people want to see. Now there's a draw. Before was there?
Yes, it doesn't matter. Conor McGregor right now, until he loses another fight somewhere else, as long as he's not like busted for all the cocaine he's been snorting lately, or
Allegedly,
because cocaine's hell of a drug. But
I don't know anything about cocaine and Conor McGregor.
yeah,
Neither do I.
I don't either, but I've heard a lot of
Okay,
stories.
well, that's rumor and innuendo.
Yeah, but so anyways, I don't see him. He's the biggest draw. I mean, he's just the biggest draw. It doesn't matter. As long as it's worth his time, he'll fight. I mean, if he wants to fight, he can draw.
You don't think he's done?
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know.
You don't think all that money and you're out?
Oh no.
Or is he a fighter and wants to come back and
You
fight?
can't ask me that problem because I never stop working. Like I won't.
Yeah.
Once I get to this, what's my next step, right? I mean, when you, a theory of mine is when you get older and you retire and you stop looking forward, that's when you start trailing off.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what? You can see how much money you have, but you can also see how fast it's being burned on the other end. You know?
And he's
if
burning
you're
it.
doing stupid shit like chartering a plane for $30,000 with a bunch of people on it, your money's burning pretty fast.
Or buying a $12 million yacht.
That's just what we see too. So who knows what he's doing? Yeah.
Yeah, and then, there's people stealing from him. Anyway, that said, let's talk about the card. All right. Okay. So you think Conor throwing the? Let's get an overall. Conor throwing the dolly through the window. Thumbs up or thumbs down, John?
I think down. I don't want to see that crap.
Okay.
I got no interest in it.
Robert.
Yeah, I don't want to see other fighters, get hurt from that. That's
Well, it doesn't belong there, in my opinion.
Right. I'm going to give it a thumbs up because I've done it a number of times and I understand exactly what's going through his mind. You can put what's it saying? You can take a man out of the barrio, but you can't take the barrio out of the man. You can take him out of the Belfast ghettos, but you can't take the Belfast ghettos out of him if indeed he's from Belfast. That said, you're still a fighter at heart, and shame on you for injuring other people, but I've done it, so I understand. I don't condone it, but I understand.
Well said.
All right, the card. Let's talk about the card. Listen, you know what? I want to talk about Rose Namajunas and Joanna Jedrzejczyk.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one. And
We're
you know
going
what?
back 2 weeks, but it's necessary.
Your contemporary isn't here today, even
No.
though we had Aaron, if you're watching.
Yes, Aaron.
Right, I have your white and blue Dodgers T-shirt picked out. My car's not that big, right, so it won't take long for you to wash it.
It is
right?
that dirty.
But you do. It is that dirty. It may take a while, yes. You do owe me. And I know you're watching, and I know you're going to comment or something like this because I know you're at work, whatever. But the bet was, and we can replay it if you want, Aaron, that you have to if your people lose, and they did, you have to wash my car in a Dodgers jersey because you were wearing that reprehensible Angels shirt. And now I have a nice, form-fitting white T-shirt that says Dodgers across the front and Fernando Valenzuela across the back, just for you to clean my car. So don't you forget, and I'm going to hold that to you, and our dozens and dozens of viewers are going to do the same. If you do not, well, you'll see.
That's right. But getting back to Rose, I mean, that is the fight that they bet on, and her words were Joanna violence, if I remember correctly. That was the word that they referred to her as, and I agree. She wanted to come back in a violent way, and this was her chance. She actually was able to prepare for a different fight, to know that Rose is going to bring that fight because she certainly brought it the first time, and how is she going to stop her?
Right. Well, you know, one thing about the matchup between these two, you know, they say style makes fights, etc. But what happened was, you know, if you look, I think Joanna has peaked in her abilities. I mean, she's made the most of her striking and kicking abilities, and she's made the most of her skills on the ground, limited as they
Being able to get up.
Right. Now, Rose is still growing. Rose is going to improve. Her window of improvement is still open, and she's still getting better. So when she fought the first time, she was this good. When they fought the second time, she was a little better. She's going to continue to get better. Where I think Joanna's kind of reached the limit of her skill set, and so now it becomes a matter of her approach, how she's going to fight this fight, how she's going to fight the next fight, how she's going to fight each opponent. Whereas Rose is not done growing, and it really was something, you know, to see her win again, and still can't shut that woman's mouth though, can
No, not at all. And in fact, man, she was hamburger when she was done too.
and she was going, it's a fluke, or what did she say?
Yeah.
She's just going on and on. And
Well, you leave it to the judges. You had your opportunity, right? You're known to knock people out. She's done it in the past. She puts people out. So where was that?
Right, and you know, you can always say, you know, the judge is this or the judge is that.
Yeah.
Hey, you were in a fight.
You had a
She was in a
chance.
fight. Your face is halfway laying on the floor.
Yeah,
all right,
that's for sure.
And you got taken down for posterity. You know, at the end of that last round.
Yeah.
So, you know, what exactly is your argument? What is your argument? What damage did you do? How did you land more harder punches? Do we have the punch stats? Well, we'll get the punch stats in a minute, but you know, and even from a pure fight. Look, this was a fight. I just watched the fight. I think the bald-headed girl beat the mouthy girl. That's all there is to it.
It was clearly shown at the end, especially when you looked at the two girls who took more damage.
Right. And
At least the more impactful punches. You know?
And yeah, I mean, you could say, oh, well, there were tie kicks. She landed a bunch of leg kicks. It's like, okay, leg kicks are effective if they're effective, if they're making the person wince, if they're making a misstep, if they've got them dropping their hands. You know what
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. But you're right about that. The kicks can change the game, and she was better equipped to throw those kicks and follow up with combos. And it was that left hook. She would set it up, and that left hook would finish. So Joanna would come through and leave herself out there, and that left hook would follow through because she was leaving herself hanging. I think Rose saw that.
Right. Interesting. Robert, you seem to think that Joanna won, right?
I said that I think if you look at it as a UFC match and a sport based upon the rules, I could see it going to Joanna's way.
Why is that? If she landed more punches, more strikes,
45 more.
45.
Well, that's a huge number. Were they significant strikes?
Joanna's in blue. Yes, they were. Joanna's in blue, Rose's in red.
Okay.
That's the punch.
So per round.
It doesn't look like that big a discrepancy. In fact, it looks almost dead even except for that third round.
Fourth round,
Fourth round.
third round.
Now, what's the difference
44%
between
to 49.
punches and leg kicks? She threw a lot of leg kicks. Is that what they were? That just says strikes. That can be anything.
Yeah.
And those are strikes thrown or strikes landed?
Landed.
Okay, let's see, 100%.
Yeah. So overall, like, and it says to target by head. So Rose did hit Joanna 80% of her shots were to the head.
Okay.
And 44% was for JJ. Body, Johanna.
37.
Yeah, 37-4.
Hold on. All right, this is Lucy calling again. Her and her mom seem to think it's funny to pick on me. Hold on one second.
It's okay. We like
on.
them calling.
I'm going to put you on speakerphone, Lucy.
We're going to put you on the show.
What do you want? I'm doing a podcast. She hung up.
Of course. Thank you for making life interesting, Lucy.
Okay.
You deserve that because you used to do that to us and drive me and Favi absolutely nuts.
You know, I'm still waiting for the time when someone actually speaks up on the...
Yeah, they may as well.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, so we're looking at these stats, and clearly there's a discrepancy in who landed more shots. However, is it the type of shot? Because 80% to the head is a big deal.
Yeah, but if it's only like 20 out of, you know what I mean, out of like 30.
Well, it says 21 out of 64,
Yeah.
whereas 20 out of 67. Those are about the same. I'll look to the right, the graphic to the right that no one else can see because this is a podcast and we're using visuals to heighten our show.
Yeah.
In any case, you lost, Joanna. Get over it.
Yeah.
You know,
The decision's made.
and you know, this isn't friggin' Olympic boxing where you know they score it every time you land, right? Oh, there's a point. There's a point. There's a point.
Yeah.
I saw the fight. Your face looked like hamburger meat, right? Rose looked like she friggin' just walked. You know, went for a light jog.
She's ready to go again.
Yeah, you should have gone a few more rounds.
Yeah.
That said, what's next for Rose Namajunas? And frankly, what's next for
Joanna
Jedrzejczyk?
Do they already got something set up?
No. There's nothing set up yet.
Okay, so
But
in your estimation, what is next?
not my estimation, but Aaron's estimation. She says that she thinks maybe Carolina Kowalowicz.
Oh, wait a
too.
minute. You know what? Erin can tell us what she thinks when she's washing my
Okay.
car in her Dodgers jersey, right? On a hot day with the sprinklers going. But as of right now, what do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. They can put the Carolina Kowalowicz 2 versus Joanna again. And then probably like Jessica Andrade.
Is she another kickboxer? Is that the girl that was a kickboxer they put up against her?
Polish
Yeah,
girl,
yeah. And she's a Dutch kickboxer?
Polish.
Polish kickboxer? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So nothing that blows your skirt up then.
No, not
Yeah.
even the Jessica Andrade. I mean,
Yeah. Well, she's already went through.
That's for JJ.
She's
I mean,
already
not
went
for
through
JJ, but
those
for-
girls, so yeah.
for
So
Rose will fight Jessica.
Okay,
Andrade.
so it's pretty safe to say that Joanna's kind of in a free fall right now after this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, she would probably have to win
Or
at
change
least-
weight classes, maybe?
She could. She'd go up 1 to 25, right?
Yeah.
what does that do to her speed?
That'll negate her power. I mean, her
Yeah.
speed probably won't affect her speed, but it'll negate any power she had. Because you got to remember, she, like you said, she hit Rose a few times, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and didn't put her down.
No,
Not once.
no,
They
no.
fought twice.
She hit
That's
her in
right.
the face 65 times.
And didn't wobble her either, did she?
No.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a tough position for Joanna, but you know, it's a fight career, and careers take dives, and they have ups and downs. You know, Rose may, who knows? Rose may go the way of Ronda Rousey the next fight. You know, it's a tough spot. It's
Yeah.
a tough spot indeed. That takes us to the next fight, which was
Renato
Camaro and
Calvin
Calvin.
Kattar.
Qatar. Yes.
It went to decision, third round.
What was your thoughts on the fight, Robert?
Yeah, I honestly, I kind of wasn't too excited about it.
Yeah, it wasn't an exciting fight. They just kind of pushed 3 rounds, and at the end, Carnero came out as a winner.
Yeah,
But uneventful,
all right.
you know.
All right, well, let's go. You know what? Let's skip through some of the. Go ahead.
Well, let's go with one fight. We have to. at least
Wait,
talk about
before you do that, I noticed that Karolina Kowalczyk, is that her name? Kowalczyk?
Kowalczyk, yeah.
She beat Felice Herrig, which is a pretty good fight. And does that put her into the
Yeah,
the
she's won
Joanna?
She's won a few in a row. That's why that's
Okay, because she came off of this fight so well.
And Felice is on like a 3 or 4 fight win streak already too.
Oh, she was, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, you know, it was a good fight. It was a solid fight. She won that, so that puts her up against somebody a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering where that came from.
Did you guys watch the Zabit fight?
Tell me about Zabit. Remind me,
Okay,
it's 2
so-
weeks ago.
So you know how everybody's like on the Dagestan train right now.
Yeah.
And Abbott is one of the guys from that.
Khabib's?
I don't know if he's from Khabib's camp.
But he's from that part of the
I
world?
think he trains with I think he's training in New York with Hensel's group, maybe, or something like that, or somebody on the New York side or East Coast side. I can't remember right away. But he's amazing. That guy.
He's the real wiry guy, right? Real skinny, real awkward-looking guy.
Yeah, and like super calm the whole time.
Yeah.
Take you down.
Ice
whenever
water
you-
in his veins.
That seems weird to me because Iaquinta is one of those New York guys. No, not from his camp. Not one of those
We're
guys.
not from the same
No,
camp.
okay.
No, Renzo Gracie.
I think he was Hensel's.
Okay.
But, yeah, he was something else. That guy had the difference between him and Khabib is that guy can take people down, wrestle, do
At
all
will.
that stuff. But his striking is where it's at. He's got really good striking.
It's like a whip. He's got 2 whips on each, for arms. He's a real skinny, awkward-looking guy.
Yeah. And he fought some dude that's crazy as hell that took a beating but didn't care, just kept on coming.
Yeah.
It was a really good fight. To me, it was my favorite fight of the night. And,
That's cool.
I would like to see Abbott a lot more. I'm pretty sure that he's going to
Yeah,
be
he probably will, because a lot of people are talking about him now.
He's probably going to be. He's up there. He's going to be up there eventually. I just want to see what his cardio's like in 5th round because he stared at the clock quite a bit in the 3rd.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Well, that's... Huh. Okay, let's talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov and Al Iaquinta. Now, I watched... One of my favorite fights was watching Al take Joe Lozon apart. I mean, systematically dissect him. It was a great fight. And so I knew that Iaquinta coming in, I mean, the whole 24 hours notice that he had, I knew that he had the skills to hang with Khabib, but I thought that he would just get overwhelmed. But boy, I was wrong. I mean, did he push Khabib? No, but was it competitive? And did he stay in the fight long enough for where you could say, hey, you know what, this fight could end at any minute? Al could land that shot or get that submission.
Sure.
So my hat's off, figuratively, not literally, to Al Iaquinta, and I'm wondering, based on the strength of this fight, do you think he's going to get? Well, first of all, tell me what you thought of the fight.
Yeah, and I think that he covered up pretty well. He didn't really take those shots very well, but gave it back. So he was counterfighting the whole time. He wasn't dictating that fight. Khabib was an animal. I think he was at his best. He was ready for this. Who was Iaquinta supposed to fight? Because he was actually in this with someone else, and he stepped up, right? Do you recall that? Who was his other opponent? You prepare for a fight for 6 weeks, and then you step up to Khabib. It's different.
I forget who it was.
Okay.
It's either going to be like
It's the whole Connor incident. Everything fell apart, and they're putting people together, so Iaquinta steps up to the headlining shot. But,
Well, I think based on the strength of his performance in this last fight, I think he's earned a shot at a rematch. What do you think, Rob?
that might be interesting.
you mean with a full 6 to 8 week camp?
Yeah,
Exactly.
focused on one guy.
I feel bad for Al, but I think if I were him, I'd probably take a couple more fights.
You
somewhere
think he
else.
exceeded expectations? Because
He
frankly,
did. He exceeded expectations, but I don't think
Nurmagomedov took the fight on a day's notice too. He didn't realize that
That's
it was Al
true.
Iaquinta either. Yeah.
It's a different kind of fighter,
Yeah, and
and a lot of heart to last that long.
I kind of feel like in a way that Khabib took him down and just controlled him for 2 rounds like it was nothing. He decided, you know what, let me see what I can do standing and work on that for the next 3 rounds and see what goes.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think
He might have
second time
backpedaled
around,
a little bit.
I think he puts Iaquinta away fast. I mean, for a
He
second round
knows the
submission.
game now.
I think he let Iaquinta. I don't know.
It looked like there was some breathing room. It's kind of like what I think about Cyborg.
I feel
I
like
think she gives him a little breathing room before she finishes him. Otherwise, it's just every fight's a 30-second fight.
I felt like he went back. I think he carried the fight a little bit.
Yeah.
You think so?
I think Khabib carried it a little
I
bit.
don't know if you can carry a fight in MMA like you can in boxing. I really don't. I mean, because the fight is always just one heartbeat away from ending. I mean, how many times have you seen a guy winning, boom, footlock, guy winning, boom, choke, guy winning, guillotine, knockout, whatever. I mean, I don't know that anyone at that level is so good that they can carry a fight like that against a top contender.
You might be right. But Khabib has been kind of amazing lately. His accuracy, his striking has been something else. So he didn't put him away. I'm kind of amazed by that.
Okay, so let's okay, so okay, we're all convinced that Rose, well, the exception, Robert thought that Joanna outpointed Rose, but for the most part, we believe that Rose won that fight, right?
Yep.
She won a fight, no doubt about it. Rose won the fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, that and we are in agreement that Al Iaquinta. I always want to say Ianetta.
It's a tough. Yeah, I know there is an Ianetta in there. Yeah,
looked good and deserves another shot at Nurmagomedov.
Yeah. At least another big shot, man. He deserves something coming up. Get him ready.
Okay, and so that leads us to our next. That UFC was at 250.
223.
223. Sorry.
It's okay.
So what's up for 223 now? The main event is
the next one after that. 224.
No. What is 224? Yeah. What is 224? What's the main event for 224?
What do we got for 224? Pull that up for us real quick. We had Fox 29, the UFC on Fox 29 this past weekend, which was Saturday night. We'll talk about in just a moment. Okay. But he's going to pull up the next big pay-per-view.
Poirier versus Gaethje?
Gaethje, yeah.
This is what happened this past weekend.
You want to talk about that one before we go into 224? Because this is the most current.
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with
Well, let's start with Oliveira, Cowboy Oliveira, fighting Carlos Condit, which is not an easy battle.
Well, Carlos Condit's been around for a while, and I've seen him fight and dispatch really good fighters.
Yeah.
And to see him, he's taking losses quite often now at the end. Yeah. So,
well, Oliveira was on his back. He throws up an up kick at the end, which was kind of amazing, and it connects. But they didn't pay any attention to it. We didn't see any of the judge or any of the commentators talk about it, but I could see that he was dazed. And I don't know if it was butterflies or what, but there was a scurry, and Condit ended up on the bottom. And instinctually, when someone's on top of you in a sprawl position, you go for a leg. He went for two, and then got guillotined. He pulls him up, standing guillotine, and chokes him.
Well, there you go. It's just like we were talking about a moment ago.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So Carlos gets stuck in a guillotine. Well, that happens. That's happened to me.
The up kick is what started it. He was done.
He was hurt.
He wobbled. He got butterflies, flipped him over, threw the guillotine in, and then he was done. He didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
I think instinctually he was going for the legs. I don't even think it was a legitimate double leg.
I see what you're saying.
You're grabbing for something, yeah.
I got you. Well, it's a tough break for Condit. And where does that put Oliveira? Is he say it right? Oliveira?
Where's he at in numbers right now, Robert? Towards the top? No?
I mean, at most, it's probably around 5. I mean, he lost that war with Yancy Medeiros.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on a pretty good win streak till then.
Tim Means, that's a pretty mean fight right there.
And Will Brooks,
Ryan LaFleur.
Ryan LaFleur too.
Yeah.
He fought Yancy and lost. This is his first win since that Yancy fight. So
yeah, it was legitimate though. I mean that up kick, it was something not to be questioned yet. They blew right past it, but that's what really dazed him.
What fight stood out on that Fox card to you, John? They have 4 fights?
They had quite a few fights. Let's see. For that Fox card, I think the headlining fight was probably the fight of the year. Arguably the best fight I've seen all year, and might even go the distance for the rest of the year. Justin Gaethje is not to be questioned about whether he's going to go the distance or not. And Poirier stepped in and just, I mean, he's got a lot of road miles on him. He's been around a long time.
Poirier, yeah.
And I think he knew that it was going to be a war. I think he knew that he would have to be not only in it for the distance, but to pull out the bag of tricks. And he did, man. It went 4 rounds, and he just finished him.
Really?
Just devastating. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah, knocked him out. They didn't go to the ground once.
Really?
And isn't Gaethje a great wrestler? Came from a wrestling background, right? They didn't even tie up. There wasn't a clinch. There wasn't a shot or nothing.
Yeah,
they threw the entire time.
Just throwing hands at each other, huh?
He's
See him. I just of all people, or you know what? Of all people, do you remember when Brock Lesnar? I mean, granted, Brock Lesnar was a legitimate badass. He was a legitimate NCAA champion. But you remember
when real wrestling,
not real wrestling,
okay,
amateur wrestling.
Gotcha.
Amateur wrestling.
Gotcha.
So he,
I forget who I'm talking to.
Yeah, he had a couple of fights, and when he lost to Frank Mir or Francisco Ramirez, which is his real name, but Frank Mir, when was it heel hooked or knee barred? His attitude was like, yeah, that's too bad. I'm gonna train really hard and come back at it again. I was like, wow, what a good attitude.
Yeah.
That's
not an easy thing to escape from if you haven't seen it before either. I don't know that he'd seen any kind of leg lock.
But I mean, I take exception to people treating the UFC like Hollywood. Oh, if I talk to the right people, if I have the right look, and if I make all the right moves, then I'll be there.
I get there and get beat up.
Well, but it's like, dude, you know what? There's 1,000 guys that are scrapping, driving 200 miles to fight in front of 300 people,
Sleeping
for
in
$400.
garages, yeah.
You know, and here's this guy, you know. And
Yeah, that's rude.
yeah, it's an affront to, you know, every time you see someone like Dana White or some idiot like that go out there screaming about how this is a real sport, how this needs to be treated with respect, and then you do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it tells me you don't really believe your own bullshit.
Yeah, that's a tough place to come from when you're making a spectacle or a circus out of something that, you know, we actually want to see legitimize and push itself into a better direction. But these things happen.
Yeah. And they're giving him another chance.
Yeah.
Another better chance. Well,
It's a year later, isn't it? Has he been out of the cage for a year? It's been at least a year.
oh, he must have been training every day for the last year. 2 years? It was 2 years ago that he fought?
It's
I
been a
don't
while.
think that it's been that long, has it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a while. I still don't think the learning curve is there. I don't think, not at his age. There's some young guys that get in there and they pick up on everything real quick, and then they can move. And you know, I've heard about it. It's a weird thing, but you hear about them. They start when they're 18. By 22, they're taking some big fights.
September 2016.
Yeah. So going on 2 years. How old is the dude? How old is CM Punk? He looks like he's 40. Yeah.
I think he's close to.
Yeah.
If not.
And at that age, I don't know that you get better in a highly competitive arena like the UFC at all the different disciplines.
You know what? I'll tell you what, Punk. You want to come in, Phil Punk Brooks, whatever you call yourself, all right? Why don't they put him in there with Brock Lesnar, right? That way we don't have any problems. You can say, oh, they're not in the same weight class, but it's all right because you guys wrestled each other, right? Yeah. What weight does he fight at? 185?
He's a big boy, so I would guess at least that.
70.
Is it 70?
170?
Well, Mike Jackson
I would beat your
0-1-0.
ass.
They look like they're the same exact. They're the same exact record right now going into their UFC.
0-1. Mike Jackson. Michael Jackson?
Is Mike Jackson.
Okay, how about this? I've never heard of Mike Jackson.
No.
How is he getting into the UFC having one fight with no wins?
He only had one amateur fight too.
Okay, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. The UFC is slowly becoming the World Wrestling Federation.
Or people are leaving to go there as well.
You know, someone brought up a good point. A lot of people don't follow wrestling, especially MMA people don't like wrestling.
Yeah.
Because it's fake. Here's the reality.
I've come to learn it's a show, but yes.
There was two federations. There was the World Wrestling Federation and there was World Championship Wrestling. The World Championship Wrestling was known as the NWA. Ted Turner's people, big money, wind up buying out NWA, WCW, and had all this money, and they changed with all the things that made it work, and they made it big for a while, and then they just destroyed it and it fell apart. And WCW has pretty much evaporated into. And someone said that's what's happening to the UFC. They have this big money people coming in, mismanaging it to death, and ultimately people fear that the same fate will befall the Ultimate Fighting Championship as befell World Championship Wrestling, in that you have a bunch of people, corporate executives, not fight people, not fight savvy people, that are going to mismanage the UFC into oblivion. And I after seeing this right here, Mike Jackson against Phil Brooks, CM Punk, 0-1 versus 0-1 in the UFC on a pay-per-view, I'm going to tell you, goodbye UFC. This is the beginning of the death dirge.
Was the UFC a culmination of the Gracie Challenge coming to the U.S.? Is that really how it kind of came about?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. There was speculation about that. When I was around it, there were two videos out on the market. There were VHS video cassettes. There was Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Action and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Action 2. And it was a collection of dojo fights and fights on the beach, old footage that fought in some of the stadiums in Brazil. And it was a study in revisionist history, if you will, of the Gracie family.
That's the way I understand it. I want to hear from you, yeah.
Yeah, but it was pretty popular and no one's seen it. I'd show it to my friends when we were drinking. They're like, oh my God, is this real? Look at, why isn't he standing and doing a spin? Because that shit don't work. And the speculation was that when they started the Ultimate Fighting Championship, it was just a matter of Horian wanting to get enough footage for a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Action 3. Well, be that as it may, whatever happened.
They were short-sighted.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, it was. And it grew. And And the UFC got bigger than Horian and even the Gracies. And an interesting thing was, people would say Horian Gracie is just trying to make his jiu-jitsu academy bigger by showcasing and bringing in people for Royce to beat. Blah 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 blah. No one would have put money behind it if they just thought that Horian was trying to, pad his stats and make himself look better. But the ironic thing is, the UFC obviously has grown and become bigger and badder than the Gracie family and all that. Well, and that's fine. It's a corporate thing now. But the interesting thing is that they've opened their own UFC gyms and they're international, right?
Sure.
And the biggest gym in the UFC, universe, the biggest UFC gym, is in Torrance, just up the street,
where they opened the first
Gracie Academy. So now,
where the garage was that they started.
Gracie has to compete with his own creation now,
yeah.
which is it like Hamlet? Is it Hamlet or is it King Lear? The whole.
Oh yeah.
So
that rivalry.
Yeah, so it's interesting to note that.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. I didn't even think about that. And yes, it is in Torrance. And the original Gracie School, which now has a museum, it is in Torrance.
It used to be huge.
It used to be a little garage, though. I've seen that garage there as well.
Small too. Yeah, I remember that. It's interesting. There's all kinds of. I remember. Oh, this is bad. They're putting Royce in. We thought for sure it should have been Hickson.
Yeah.
When he went there, there's no way Royce is going to beat 3 guys in one night. And we were under the understanding that everyone knew how to fight. And back then, watching those first few UFCs, all these black belts with all these really cool. Even we bought into some of it. We're like, oh, this guy's going to be really good.
Sure.
And it was.
Well, that's our understanding of martial arts pre-1993.
That's right. That's right. And I just thought that people knew as much about the Gracies as I did.
Yeah.
Because why else would they? How would they have known to get into the UFC or the Ultimate Fighting Championship?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm curious about because we know enough now. We know what goes on, but you were actually a part of it before this blew up. So when they put those different styles together, I mean, that was the spectacle. That's what that's what I miss seeing.
If you look, you'll see guys like Ken Shamrock and who else was on that first fight card? Ken Shamrock came from something called Pancrase, but before that it was Rings, and he was a pro wrestler. He used to wrestle by the name of Vinny Torelli, and he had this Italian Goomba gimmick, and he went to Japan and wrestled in the strong style, which is what they did was they kind of blurred the line between pro wrestling and shoot fighting, and they gave them these different names like shoot wrestling and then shoot fighting, and what they were is they were strong style works. In other words, they tried to make it look as real as possible. They didn't have any of the shenanigans or whatever. So you'd be like, they're hitting with an open hand, but that looks legit, right?
Yeah.
Rings Japan was one of them. So and then Pancrase started having real fights and worked fights, and then so it was really blurred, right? They all looked so legit. You could see some of the matches. It was a Funaki and Ken Shamrock. You watch it, look it up. Funaki wants a knee bar and Shamrock, and you could swear that it was a real fight. But then if someone says, that's a work, you look at it again, you go, it is a work. Dan Severn, same thing. So when Ken Shamrock came from Japan for the UFC, he had come from a pro wrestling background. Ray Wizard was not Ray Wizard. Was Ray Wizard? No, Zane Frazier was real popular around here. He was a real strong point karate champion at the Ed Parker tournaments. Patrick Smith won the Sabaki Challenge, which at the time in the United States was he was a 2-time champion. Was a full you see point karate, but it was full contact point karate. So you can punch hard to the body, you can kick to the head, point, you get guys getting kicked in the head and getting knocked out, and that was legit. That was also in Colorado where there was no state athletic commission. Gerard Gordeau fought in some of those work shoots I was telling you about in Japan. I don't know where the hell they found Taylor Tooley.
That's an interesting relationship, though, with pro wrestling, and it seems to be going in that direction again. We're seeing a relationship here.
It's always been there. Dan Severn was a pro wrestler for years before he came to the UFC, right? Yes, he was a legitimate amateur wrestler, but Tony Helm, the first guy that Mr. All-American, the natural.
What's his name?
Randy Couture.
Randy Couture, yeah.
The first guy he fought was Ludwig Borga, a pro wrestler from the WWF, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
We were trying to pull names earlier, and now we're pulling them out of a hat left and right.
Let's see. What's his name? Ken Shamrock's guy. Black dude, young brother.
And ring a bell.
Anyway, he was another pro wrestler. There were tons of pro wrestlers in the UFC.
Yeah.
You didn't know them by their pro wrestling name because they went by their regular name. Ken Shamrock was the very first one, followed by Dan Severn, Tony Helm, Ludwig Borga. I can name a ton of them, and they were all there. And so, like, when people say, "Oh, well, you know, the wrestling here, the wrestling there," hey, it's always been that way. And CM Punk, right? He's just the latest one. You know, there you have it. You know, and so when people talk down about Ronda Rousey going into the WWE, well, you know what? They've been bringing the WWE to the UFC for a lot longer.
Considerably so, since the initiation in '93.
Yeah, exactly. And like it or not, that's how it is. What's his name? Scott Bigelow, Bam Bam Bigelow. You remember him?
Yeah.
He fought Kimo Leopoldo. You know, that was in Japan. But a lot of the Japanese fighters were also pro wrestlers. Masa Funaki fought Rickson Gracie. I think it was Masa Funaki and fought Rickson Gracie. So it's been that way from the beginning. And
Josh Barnett.
Oh, Josh Barnett, yeah, he goes both, back and forth.
But Josh Barnett started as a fighter, and he's a lot like me. Obviously, he's more talented. He's a lot like me. He always loved pro wrestling. Because when I was a kid, there was no MMA. You couldn't watch it on TV. The closest thing you had to it was pro wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know,
That in my neighbor's backyard.
What's that?
Well, we didn't all live on an island where that was legit.
Yeah, I didn't live on an island. I lived in a forest. But that said, yeah, there you have it. So maybe I contradicted myself by saying that CM Punk gets to be in the UFC on his first fight when Ken Shamrock basically did the same thing.
But it wasn't the promotion that it is now.
No, it
There's
wasn't.
a huge difference.
Not at all. And
it was more strong man back then, man against man. You know, bring what you got.
It was, and you fought 3 times in one night if you want to take home the whole thing. And that is the amazing.
It was a tournament.
Thing. That's the neat thing about it. It's like you wondered. I remember thinking, how are you going to fight and just keep fighting, right? And none of us thought that these fights would be over like that, because we had seen all the fights that went on for hours, like Helio Gracie fighting Valdemar Santana for 3.5 hours. You know, some of Hoyler Gracie and Renzo Gracie's fights that went on for 30 minutes, etc. How are you going to do that?
That's forever.
In one night.
That's forever.
And the fights just went pop, pop, pop in that first UFC. They didn't even go to the second round.
Is it because some of those early Gracie videos they are already skilled at jiu-jitsu?
Who?
Both opponents.
Yeah, you know,
it's a different game.
The fights with Luta Libre, they call it Valetudo now.
Yeah.
Valetudo was the style of fighting, but yeah, you know, you like guys like Eugenio Tadiu. He fought in the UFC, got knocked out by, I think the guy's name was Mikey Burnett. But when he fought, was it Hoyler Gracie? They fought for half an hour and they had to stop. They just stopped. They're fighting in a school, like an elementary school,
sure,
in the multi-purpose room, and they fought for a half hour. And I remember watching it. And Hoyler's guard, boom, boom, punching him in the ribs, stand up, boom, 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 back down to the guard, punching the ribs. So we thought for sure when they were doing this, these fights are going to go on all night. They're going to go on. They were, I think the longest fight was like almost 4 minutes, right? And it was
until you got to 3 or 4, and then people realized what jiu-jitsu was. And as you learned, they learned how to counter as soon as they learned what it was.
Yeah,
and that changed the game a little bit.
Well, and your takedowns had to be better.
Yeah,
you know, and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they changed the rules too. I mean, when they started kowtowing to what politicians wanted and what athletic commissions wanted, then you turned it into you made it more sport and less fight. And every time you implement a new rule, you make it more sport and less fight.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're trying to sell a sport, but you can't tell people you're trying to sell a fight too. You know, when you have Dana White saying you could have the World Series on that video, and then the Super Bowl there and the NBA Finals, and if a fight breaks out, everyone's going to stop and watch. They're going to watch a fight, right? They're not going to watch, Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn 2. Watch that fight, and if you ever have trouble sleeping, put that fight on.
Yikes.
That almost ended the UFC altogether. Yeah, and that's my 8 cents, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it. Well, I think that brings us up.
Yeah, that puts us up against the hour.
Right.
I rambled for 55 of the 60 minutes that we were on there.
It was
Robert,
good
do you
ramble.
have any parting thoughts?
No, just other than mentioning wrestling, I watched Demolition versus
The Legion of Doom?
yeah,
Pretty awesome, huh?
yeah, with the Kona Crush
Yeah.
and the Ultimate Warrior, and I don't remember the Ultimate Warrior being so like one-dimensionally
Stupid?
boring.
I do.
I mean, I remember him being hype, but I watched him like, is that really all I liked him for? Because he was just super hyper. Other than that, he didn't really do.
No, he was
A
terrible.
lot.
He made Hulk Hogan look like Ric Flair. He was so bad in the ring, Just awful. Just awful.
Okay, that's
But
for
we'll
tomorrow.
discuss that tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
At the Royal Ramble at 9 p.m. Make sure you tune in for that.
Yep.
Any parting thoughts from you, Mr. Arredondo?
No, look us up next week.
No.
Monday, 8 p.m. We'll be here.
What about Wednesday?
OTM Live, yes. Wednesday night, Jim Crashers Live. We have Eric.
Ghost Pepper.
Ghost Pepper coming
That's
in.
a cool sounding name.
That's
Sounds
right.
like a fighter.
Yeah, he is
That's
a fighter.
cool name.
He's out of Fight Science, right?
I'm not sure where he's from.
Okay, but he
But
is
I know
coming
he
in
just came off a
live.
win from Combates Americas.
He was a Combates American.
Australis.
That's right, and he will be teaching the
Estrellas.
technique when he's here, and he's going to be talking about his story, which we all want to
And
hear.
tune in next week when we'll have footage of Erin Morrow washing my car in her Dodgers onesie.
That's right.
Are you watching, Erin? You owe me a car wash.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Peace be to you. May all your fights be victories.
That's right. Full Contact Fanatics are out, and thank you for watching.